I
So,
am coming from an excellent presentation, Students for Peace and Democracy in the International Thrive Charter for Compassion Conference going on right now.
I know people meeting globally about democracy and peacemaking, and
12
here we are.
countries.
Wow, that's so exciting. Maybe you could put that link in. I bet people could still
I
join
will. I will.
if
And
they want.
it's sort of been going on 24 hours a day because people in India, Africa, all over are presenting. We've got to work on democracy together. And that's why it is just perfect to have David right now.
Yeah. So before we head into that, and Martha Ann's going to put that link. Um, One, welcome to the intersection. And I'm wondering if there are a few minutes of announcements, so it gives some more people time to get into the Zoom call. Um, Trying to think what's coming up. I made the announcement that some of you missed, but welcoming one of the 2026 San Antonio Peace Laureates as he takes a bite of his muffin. But Paul Furakawa is with us this morning, and he received that. Um, it's an award, but it's more of a strong recognition of gratitude to those in our community who just keep doing what they need to be doing in the world and don't actually know how to stop. Martha Ann's one of those, and but Paul received that award on Sunday, so I made that announcement. Um, Other upcoming announcements: there is an action lab coming up, Sacred Action Lab, on Saturday, March 21st. I'm pulling this right out of my head. And I will get the link into the chat. It's 9 to 12 UT Health. And it's going to, they're putting a lot of it together, the panels of speakers, but support systems from for folks experiencing disabilities in their life. And so we're going to be talking about that more as we get closer, but closer is just around the corner, right? So that's Saturday, March 21st, if that's a Saturday, 9 to noon. We'll be sending that out. Other announcements, things coming up.
Tomorrow is the Fall of the Alamo celebration.
Mm. Hmm. Always wonder how to take those things. Was it really the fall? Who was what? Who was? Yeah, but that might be addressed this morning in our briefing.
I
On two
want to
sides to every story, right?
Yes. Remember, here in San Antonio, Sunday afternoon,
Mm.
March 22nd, the local Barefoot March. So, friends of mine, Palestinians, Israelis, Women Wage Peace, they've got a group in Rome working with them. And on March 22nd, they will take off their shoes at the Arapaches and they will walk up the mountain and they will have candles as the sun sets and they will say, we can live side by side. No child should kill. No child should be killed. And they want people around the world to sign on to their mother's call. So I'm going to put the link in the chat box for you to join the local one. And maybe you can't come walk or you can't come in your wheelchair that Sunday afternoon, but you can sign on, you can pray. We are uniting as people around the world. No child should have to kill, no child should be killed.
Wow.
Very good.
Thank you for that. I do want to announce, I see Doug in the screen, so I do want to announce too that next Thursday at the intersection, we will be receiving that briefing from the new executive director at NAMI. And I hope that Doug will be with us so we can do that kind of transition. But that's next Thursday. And one of the things, and I'm going to say it quick, but one of the things that Doug and NAMI did in looking for a new executive director. I think, in fact, we should have a session just on that process. I can't think of a more compassionate, powerful process of transition, smartness, um, and when we should really have Doug. Doug, would you be willing to do that sometime? Just explain the process.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think that it kind of centers around the idea of succession planning. And I just returned from the NAMI National Convention, and you listen to, for example, how many other affiliates around the country kind of have to go through this, search. And if you plan it out ahead of time, it sure does go a lot better.
It's it's one of those things, in the short run, going through that process, right? It seems like a longer process because there's stuff that happens, but in the really in the long run, it's the shortest way to the healthiest resolve and the strongest form, right, of compassion. It's just a beautiful process to watch and be a part of, only just a significant portion. But so that's what we're in one sense talking about, because I think, Doug, that even that process, I know that process was its portion in the world of making peace, of being respectful of everyone involved, including the former executive director, Doug Beach himself. It's in everything that we do. I wish I had had it this morning, but I heard a poem just a week ago, which was just like a phrase, but the last part of it was something to the effect that going to war to make peace is like planting barbed wire in the ground, expecting a rose to grow out of it. Wow. So with that,
And I don't
I'm
know if
going
you've
to.
noticed, Martha Jones has her hand up.
Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry, Martha. Yes?
It's not an announcement, and we can hold this for another gathering. But speaking of processes of searching, at some time, it doesn't need to be now. Can you let us know how the city is doing in finding someone to walk on water in your former position? Do we have that person yet?
And we can do that. There's not much to say other than they're not replacing me at this time. So, but we can talk about that more another time. But thanks for asking. So
That is very sad.
It is. You need to speak to your council person. That is the most direct thing you can do to make a difference. So I'm going to hand this over to Martha and David, because we want to give them some time and we want to get the meat in before 8:30. So Martha, thanks for bringing this forward. And David, thanks for showing up. David, where are you seated this morning?
I'm in Woodstock, New York.
There you go. All the way from Woodstock. Wow. There's a phrase. So it's all yours.
A few years ago, through the Charter for Compassion, I got the recommendation to be a part of the series, The Peace Games, or Peace on Earth by 2030. It has and is transforming my thinking to focus constantly on a better world, a more loving world. I've done the series with David 4 times, plus be with him for a number of other things. For example, in Monterrey, Mexico, at the World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates, where he was one of the most popular speakers. And he's working with Rotarians around the world because they have a goal of building peace in the world. And so, with joy, I introduce my spiritual leader and friend, David Gershon.
Thank you, Martha Ann. Thank you, Ann, for all your good work. Welcome, everybody, to Well, I'm happy to be welcome to your world. I'm not really welcoming you to mine yet. So thank you for the opportunity. So what I want to share with you are two things: a slide presentation on what we call the Peace on Earth by 2030 moonshot, and then the actual peace game, walking you through that so you understand how it works. So with that said, let me share what we're up to. So this is a big idea. I'm going to take you on a ride. So we call it Peace on Earth by 2030 moonshot. And so the beginning question is, what's a moonshot? And we have discovered that word through an experience in 1961 where President Kennedy said, we're going to put a person on the moon. It's going to be the greatest adventure humanity has ever embarked upon, and was successful. And since then, the term moonshot has been characterized as something that's audacious, that requires deep imagination and tenacity. So that's what's required for peace on Earth, and that is the moonshot we are aspiring to bring into the world. And if we want to actually create peace and not just lament war and lament conflict that goes into conflagration, we actually have to change the way we think about peace and how we go about it. It's not just a moral aspiration. It actually is a set of practices that can scale. If we are effective, then we get peace on Earth. So what I want to share with you is a concrete roadmap for creating what we call a global culture of peace, not just a one-off moment in time when there's a cessation of conflict and war, but where there's a culture that sustains a certain way of living and being in relationship to one another. So that's the moonshot idea here. And my experience that gives me some willingness to dream is that in 1986, at the height of the Cold War, we passed a torch of peace around the world in partnership with ABC Television and UNICEF. And through the media, through the partnerships that ABC put together, we engaged 1 billion people. And the world's leaders, including Gorbachev and Reagan at the time, the two Cold War antagonists, and war stopped wherever the torch went. And the world was united for 86 days. And I said, okay, well, why can't we go and make that a durable experience for humanity? And so the moonshot grew out of that and our capability for creating global mobilization and impact. These are some of the pictures of some of the experiences we had, from presidents of countries to the Native Americans who lit the flame initially, from creating a beautiful experience, the sunrise ceremony, to the president, to the General Assembly. It goes on. Many, many leaders were involved. So what is the strategy of the moonshot? It's a three-part, we call it peace strategy, and it posits that we need to combine individual change, the peace game, community change, which I'll talk about, the peace zone, which is something that San Antonio has been flirting with for a moment. We can talk further about that. And a global movement building experience that really aligns humanity around this vision. And when those three elements are combined, one can achieve a tipping point. And the key idea behind a tipping point is that a small effort can create a large impact. So one has to be intelligent in how one takes on a global strategy like that. And the key to that is tipping points. So those are the elements that come together to create a tipping point, or can come together. So firstly, the peace game. In a simple sense, it's shifting hearts and minds. And if we are going to create peace on our planet, we have to transform our hearts and our minds, because peace comes out of us as human beings. And war comes out of us as human beings, and conflict comes out of us as human beings. So this involves cultivating peace practices. And there are a set of peace practices that we've learned that really can produce that result. And it's the primary tool for doing this is the peace game. And the peace game are the 7 practices that we learned from the first Earth Run. So it's not something we just made up. It's what we observed empirically as we watched the world be at peace for 86 days. These were the strategies that then got created into a game to make it accessible. So at the heart of this is this app. I'll go over these 7 practices in a moment. It's centered around practices that we apply in our daily lives that transform ourselves and empowers us as agents of change. Because the peace game isn't about an internal process exclusively, it's about how we apply this in our relationships and our community. And so over the past 5 years, which has been the pilot phase, we've had 4,000 plus people, including Martha Ann and several others from San Antonio, who've taken over 80,000 peace actions across 608 cities and 67 countries, who've impacted some 4 million people. So we have proof of concept. This works, and it's quite powerful. And it's being applied in faith communities, in Rotary, in different educational institutions, universities, high schools, lots and lots of different environments, and businesses as well. But then we move into, how does that move to the next level? Yes, we have to transform as individuals, but that's not enough. We need communities that enable these. We need communities that enable this kind of practice to scale. We call those peace zones. And that's the vehicle through which the community process of transformation takes place. And what we do is we weave the 7 peace practices into the community social fabric across the civic, public, and private sectors. And ultimately, what it enables is cooperation for the common good. We have lots and lots of good works in communities, getting them together, getting them to be more coherent, getting them to create synergies across the sectors, some of which is what's been happening in this group with Anne and all of you over these years. So this is a formal methodological process that we are applying, and we've done 5 of them already, and we're working with many, many communities now to scale up this peace zone notion. So our vision is 10,000 of them by the end of 2030. That's every city in the world. So San Antonio, we've got you on our radar. And what that does is it creates the culture. It can't just be from on high. You actually have to embed them. And that's the vision, is to embed these in all the cities of the world over that period of time. We have a whole strategy on how to do that. I won't go into the details of that. And when that occurs, then we start to tip into new societal norms for a community, but then at scale, it becomes the world. Our Empowerment Institute provides the training and the resource and the support to make this successful. And the last piece of the puzzle is we have to tell a new story. We need to tell a story of peace on our planet. So storytelling, mythic symbols, musical concerts, torch relay events, all kinds of different ideas that we are now looking to unite humanity, like we did for the first Earth Run, and we've done on other events. And what that then enables is a new sense of hope and possibility to emerge. And again, as I mentioned, we're working with many, many, many different parts. We have 70 partners that are moving this forward. Charter for Compassion is one of them, among many. So this is emerging. Peace on earth is getting born. So how does it all fit together such that we can create a tipping point? So one of the things we've learned about complex systems and how does one create tipping points is that 0.5% is actually the magic number. When you get enough alignment and resonance and coherence, you can actually tip a system at that number. So 8 billion people comes to 40 million people. Whatever 0.5% of San Antonio is would be a tipping point for tipping this culture if there was enough people engaged in the peace game. So you alone in this group could actually tip if you came together around this idea, San Antonio, into a culture of peace. So that's the vision, establishing 10,000 peace zones and 40 million people playing the peace game. And again, we're building that capacity to do that. So all that said, there's a way forward if you wish to engage. We play the peace game, which Martha Ann has played 5 times, I think she said, twice a year. The next one is March 11th through May 6th, so literally starting next Wednesday. You can just take a picture of that QR code or come to our website, peace2030.earth, and that'll allow you to register for it. And ultimately, what we're saying is that we seek a world where peace is not merely the absence of war, but a thriving, dynamic state of individual and community well-being across our planet. And yes, there'll still be conflicts, but they will get metabolized by this culture a lot faster, so they don't have to evolve into war and armed conflict. So that's the vision of Peace on Earth. Let me briefly share with you the app, and then if we have time, I can take some questions.
That'd be great, David.
Okay. So let me start this, share. Whoops. I don't know why that's coming up, but let's get rid of that. And we can get rid of this. One more try. Sorry.
As David is doing that, I want to say that it is so exciting in the series to be with people from different parts of the world. And it's been especially meaningful for me to be in a Zoom just like this, but to be in a box next to young women from Afghanistan. And as they have learned the peace on earth practices, they have been courageous enough to speak to people that they have differing ideas from, and yet to speak lovingly, respectfully, and to build relationships.
Thank you, Martha Ann. Can you see this now?
Not yet.
Okay, one more time. We're getting there. Yes?
Good. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, so these are the 7 peace actions. I'll briefly walk you through them, and then we'll have some time for questions if you have any. So the first action is around building agency. It's on empowerment. By the way, to be clear, the peace game is played over 9 weeks. It's 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, starting next Wednesday. You play as a team of 3. Either you come to the peace game with the team of 3, or we put you on a team of 3. You choose. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's no charge. And this is a remarkable global community of people caring about peace on our world who are trying to bring change in their various spheres of influence. So the first action that is building capacity around agency grows out of our decades of work and empowerment. The next 3 actions are the peace building actions, explicitly oneness, unity, and cooperation. And one of the key ideas of the peace game is you play it on what we call your growing edge, which is a place you haven't been before. If you are familiar with, if you've done something good around these things, we'll give you a pat on the back, but we're going to places you haven't been before, not where you have been. So the game is transformational as a result. And so this action, number 2 on oneness, is befriending the other. Who do you other in your life? Because they look different, because they have a different worldview, because they have a different politics. And that's who you go towards and learn how to befriend. For example, the young women in Afghanistan have chosen the Taliban. And it's quite profound to watch that interaction take place, and many, many other versions of that across politics. It's transforming polarity in our country, in our communities. The second of the peace building actions is moving us from division to unity. So again, identity politics and identity this or that tends to keep us divided. And here we look for what we share in common with one another, not which divides us. And again, you plan on your growing edge. Where are you feeling divided with someone in your life? And it could even be a family member, it could be someone who sees the world differently in your workplace or in your neighborhood. So wherever you are in your life, you play the game. Your life is the game. You don't have to go out of your life. You just show up in your life through the lens of each of these practices for a week or more, and then see how your life gets transformed as you engage. The third of the peace building actions is on cooperation. And this is the shift from really silo action to cooperative action. We are good at doing our own thing. That's we've been enculturated, particularly in this individual culture of America, but also around the world. And this helps us learn how to come together to find that which we share in common ground, and then work together to achieve it. So cooperation for the common good, very powerful part of the process. Then we move into what we call the field building actions. These are literally building the field of peace, which we define as practices of unity, cooperation, and oneness. That's our definition, active definition of peace. The action 5 on abundance is identifying organizations that further oneness, unity, and cooperation, and giving your time or your money or both to those organizations. And action 6 is what we call energetic field building, something you're familiar with in this group, which is praying for or visualizing or setting intentions for peace on earth or peace in different places in the world, the power of prayer, if you will, or intention or visualization, energetic peace building, if you will. And the 7th action is on faith. So we can't get there unless enough people get us there. So the invitation is to get more people involved. We have to get 40 million ultimately to hit that tipping point, or whatever the percentage would be in a community. So this is about engaging other people to play the peace game, but that requires faith in yourself to reach out, faith that others are willing to make change and change their own approach to interacting with other people, faith ultimately in humanity that we can achieve such a vision, and faith that we have a future. So many people have given up on our future as a species, given the state of the world. So that's faith. And then the game board is how we keep score. So each of those yellow dots is a different part of the world where the peace game is being played. 4,079 players. These are the number of actions taken, the number of cities, the number of countries. These are the number of actions taken in each of the areas. That's how we keep score. You can also keep score on your team and how your team is doing. So you have a sense of how to get inspired by one another and keep each other on track. This is the team page. There's a resource page where if you want to play the game individually in small groups in your business, your church, or your whatever, this shows you how to lead the meetings yourself. And then we have versions of it which we've adapted for different sectors, like Rotary, or there's a faith version of this that we're building where you apply it within the culture itself. And lastly, there's a profile section where you can, keep track of what you're doing, but also decide what language you want to play the game in. If you're Spanish speaking, you can play the game in Spanish or French or Chinese. Those are the current languages we have. That's the peace game.
Wow.
And the moonshot.
And moonshot. Wow.
Thank you.
And what I really appreciate, we're often, David, as you've talked about, we're really looking in this group too, in terms of systemics and collaborative work and the process, and then how to, better leverage that and move forward. So what I really appreciate about all that you just have shown us is how not only do we all have access to it, but we also have the ability to utilize it, like at no cost. Talk about democracy in action and movement. So thank you for those efforts. It's 8:30. I'm not drawing this to a close, but we tried to get, and we did try to get the real meat in before 8:30, so that anybody who needs to get on with their day can do that, and they've heard the content. So thank you for doing that, both David and Martha Ann. So any of you that need to leave, because you do need to get on with your day, thank you for being with us today. And next week we will be meeting and hearing from the new executive director of NAMI San Antonio. So I hope you all join us. And they have been doing significant work in terms of where that contributes to peace on earth and how that's being done, and new leadership there. So I hope you join us. We're going to stay on and open until quarter till the hour. So I hope, David, you can stay with us.
Surely.
And we can continue to have some conversation. Any comments or questions for David and or Martha Ann out there? Let's see what's in chat.
I just put in the link, by the way, so
I
you
see
can
it.
access the registration if you wish.
We hope that you can dive right in next week. But if you can't, read the things on the website and be inspired. Get in the spirit of this movement. And it's great to be with David and all the international people, but we could start a group right here. Like if all of you said, well, in the middle of a Wednesday, I have work, but why don't we do the San Antonio Peace Games on a Saturday morning? Let's do it. We can do it. David has very good directions to do your own group. And I think we need to realize that we come together in these sessions as Hindus, Muslims, Jews, Christians, and we've got so much strength in our interfaith bonding and strength in compassion. But if they're a group of Christians who want to do it, David has developed a beautiful set of biblical quotations, biblical ideas. So you can recognize that this system relates to great faith traditions of the world.
Mm.
I
also see
I could just say one thing to that, but then, sorry, and why don't you finish? I'll speak afterwards.
Well, I noticed in chat that Peter has loved the Peace Zone establishment model. Can you give an example of a capacity building activity in empowerment action? So, and I also another question. So go ahead, David.
I'm going to respond to
any
that.
and all of the above.
I'll respond to that, but I'll also respond to Martha Ann. So we've just begun a new pilot with faith groups. So Christian, Jewish, and Islamic. And we have adapted the peace game. Not the peace game actions stay the same, but we've created a culture where it fits into the actual religion. And we are just beginning that journey. And not unlike the Rotary peace game, where we've adapted it to the culture of Rotary and their four-way tests, we're adapting it to each of the faith traditions. And on September 21st, Peace Day, we're building a whole global strategy to engage faith leaders to do a sermon around the idea of peace, and particularly the idea of the moonshot. And then we're inviting them to bring the peace game to their congregations as a practical community building tool, which we know is so important in faith groups right now, to find ways to build community beyond just the pulpit. So know that that's in the works. Coming back to Peace Zone, and maybe at the end I can share this slide deck, and if I have a moment, then I'll explain the faith part of our work, because I know that's important to this group. Well, I will say right now, I'll give you a couple of examples of success. So one of the peace zones was Boulder, Colorado, and some of the young people playing the peace game there decided, excuse me, not Boulder, Crestone, Colorado, we're also doing it in Boulder, that they wanted to deal with the fact that young people were coming to school hungry. And there was real food challenges in that community. And so having played the peace game, learning the process of cooperation, learning how to befriend the other, learning how to have the kind of value set that would bring the community together, the groups of the community united, and they started to find ways to collaborate in ways that they hadn't before. And within a year and a half, their vision was to cure hunger. They did. They had 16 groups come together, and they were able to have enough food stocked so that no one could be hungry anymore. A small community with a tremendous outcome because the game brought people together through the practices. It taught cooperation for the common good. It created an inspiration to want to build a peace zone. It gave a methodology to enable it. So that's a practical example. We've seen other examples in other parts of the world across Africa. We've seen tribal factions that were warring stop warring through playing the peace game. And right now, one of our strong places we're playing the peace game is in Boulder, Colorado. They have 100 organizations across the city coming together. 100. We're building a whole culture of peace. We're building a whole new concept of the commons based on each organization contributing 10% of their time to building a commons that can strengthen the whole community. That is to say, the business, the NGOs, and the government sectors working together. It's quite remarkable. We've built a 50-page handbook called the Peace Zone Handbook that lays out the whole methodology. So I put my link in my email in the chat if anyone wants to reach out, and I'm happy to share any of these materials with you and have a conversation if there's anyone interested in wanting to create a peace zone in San Antonio. I think San Antonio is primed. I think because of the fact that you've done all this compassion work, you've got the most fertile soil amongst the most fertile soil of any community in the country because you're primed, and these are the practical tools that can take advantage of that fertile soil you've built.
You might take note too, David, that Peter, who asked the question, has done some amazing work in San Antonio in creating a resiliency zone, geographical in place, different organizations, just exactly what you described, but organizations and coming together and working together, and it's just an amazing project. So I even kind of look to Peter and say, like, what if in that zone where you've been working the way you have, if this portion, peace games, came in and kind of layered into that, talk about prime.
I would love that. I mean, do reach out if that is of interest to you. I'm also going to put two things in the chat. One is the deck on the faith work we're doing, so you guys can see what we're trying to do if any of you are related to any particular congregations. We are very excited to work with them. We want to have thousands of them engaged for our Peace Day event. And I'm also going to put in the chat, I'm going to happily share with you the Peace Zone Handbook so that you can see it. And all of our materials are free, so you can use this, but it'll really ground this idea, because right now it's concept, right? So this tells you how it's done. Of course, it's easier said than done, and it's easier to read something than to pull it off. It takes a lot of work. It's hard to do this, but that's our job, is to help you succeed. So you have the Peace Zone Handbook to the question I think that was asked of me by Peter. That gives you a lot of the practical understanding of how this all works, and the faith as well. Beverly, so you have a hand up. Beverly, did you want to ask a question or make a comment?
I wanted to ask you, sir, thank you so very much for this, for what you're doing. It's so foundational to help change our community. And I wanted to know, another kind of group that carries forth their is organization. This is something that's, have you had an example? This is something I'd like to do with our organization, where we take our organization through the game. Because the work that they go out then and do, we work with NAMI to do Bridges to Care. We work with other churches to help them with with establishing a mental health ministry. And I want to say a wellness ministry now, because they're wellness champions when they graduate from our training. But can this be done? I'm thinking of it in three ways: as an add-on to the mental health ministry stuff, and possibly, within organizations, because it's great if you can get your organization as a cult, establishing that culture as we go out and do work in the community.
That's one of our favorite things to do wherever we can, because you are going to transform a culture when these practices become part of how a culture interacts with one another. We've also got a business version of this. We call it Business as a Force for Good, where they bring their employees through this, and then their employees they engage through employee engagement, and then through community engagement, they start peace zones. So we're in conversations with a lot of interesting companies about that as well. So one of our scaling pathways is business. Another one is faith. Another one is education, and another one is what's our fourth one? So a Rotary, of course. Yeah, those are our scaling pathways. But yes, Beverly, I've got my email in there, and please reach out if you'd like, and we can figure out how to do this with you.
Okay.
If there's some interest. But I would say a good start would be to get a bunch of people to come to the Peace Game next week so that they can experience it directly, because then it becomes more than a concept, and then they can become champions within their organization. And ideally to come together as a peace team so they can learn together and bond together through the process of being on a peace team.
So have three people, Beverly, from, your organization go to the Peace Games next week, and that becomes their work in terms of how do we do that throughout all the organization. So a team.
And Beverly, just give me an understanding of your organization so I have a better sense of what you're describing.
Well, the nice thing about my organization is that we have the ability to more. We're basically a health and human services. We're basically a human services organization, and what we try to do are many of the issues we face happen to be the issues that we have taken on based on the community saying this is our need. Work primarily in the East and West, South, et cetera, but with the different things it has to do with crime prevention, certainly with wellness, we're dealing with women in recovery and their children, creating a safe place. I would love to do this with the apartment complex, where we're providing housing, free housing for women for up to 24 months, while for both women who are domestically now abused and women who are in recovery from addiction, so that they can get their lives together. And we give them, they're there for 24 months. This would be a perfect game.
It would be incredible. Yeah. I mean, I think you have so many applications. And what we found is that these practices are so powerful. They can be transformative in almost any context. We have not found a context yet where they're not useful. So again, and there's no charge. So just, reach out if you want to speak to us.
Okay, I'll email you, and then also work with our staff. But I'm so glad to know that people are going to be participating in that. Great.
Beautiful. Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you all. We're at 8:44. And so I just want to say, boy, Beverly, thanks for bringing it up. We just modeled, how that can happen. And you're going to keep us informed, Beverly, on how that moves forward with West Care and the work you're doing there. So
we're trying to do it with university students. Maria Alejandro is here. She's at the biggest university in town.
Yay.
I will connect with you, Sister Martha Ann.
If I could add one more thought, we've seen profound impact and transformational impact in universities, because it starts to change the culture from all of the us and them and all the kind of political identifications that often go on in universities. So it's a great culture intervention. We've seen great work in one of our universities, in University of the Western Cape in South Africa, but we love to work with universities. That's one of our scaling pathways.
And perfect. It would be another great intersection. You know, that follow up what Maria's doing at UT and what Beverly will be doing. And great place to end. It's 8:45. Thank you, David and Martha Ann, for bringing this to us. Thank you, everyone who has shown up and others who are going to be seeing this. I had some great ideas happen during this session that I'm going to follow up on action. So it was very exciting. Thank you for this. We'll see you next week at the intersection when we get to meet the new executive director from NAMI. So looking forward to that. Our community, you know, is afoot at the intersection of faith, community, and civic engagement. Thanks all. Have great weekends.
Great.
Breathe.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks all.
Thank you.